Hey, this is Michelle, and you're listening to the Love, Life, and Energy podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the biggest beliefs that keep you single. And what is it that makes you stay in this single life is absolutely within your control. So you're going to love this episode. And so stay listening and find out. Hey, my name is Michelle Chung, and I'm a live manifestation expert, which means I help women manifest their soulmate live in person, offline. And I help career-driven, A-type alpha women find their man so they can have the amazing, committed, and effortless relationship they deserve. So basically, the biggest mistake that women make when looking for a guy, looking for the right man, looking for that relationship is we start to focus on the guy itself. Like it becomes like a shopping list, like a checklist, a criteria. We start looking at the guy's profile. We ask the wrong questions, actually. Things that we want to know, but they're not actually the most important thing at that moment. So we ask things like, are you committed? Do you want to be in a committed relationship? Do you want to be in a long-term relationship? And then often he'll say something like, it depends if the woman is the right one. And that's super frustrating because how are you going to know if you don't try, right? So it's this, chicken or egg scenario. You want to know if he's the right one and he wants to know if you're the right one. So it's can be kind of frustrating. So what actually happens, the consequence of that is that women start to blame men for not being good enough, not listening, not working on themselves. They're not wealthy enough. They're not tall enough. They're not successful enough. And in the end, that's why women are accused of having this impossibly high standards or checklist that, you can never find the guy who will actually measure up to all these impossible criteria. So it's okay to have that checklist, but if that becomes your first point of filter, this can be quite a deterrent and also be quite overwhelming to find this kind of guy because, this guy will never exist for you. So the most successful transformations in someone's life are actually your belief system. So everything in life is about mindset, is about beliefs, is about your thoughts, whether it be your work and finances, wealth, your health, or love and relationships, right? So if, for example, if you ask a woman who's lost a lot of weight and she becomes the most beautiful, the most slim and attractive version of herself, she will actually say it's not about the diet plans. It's not about following a strict trend diet that, that's the newest, coolest thing about restricting your calories and all that. That plays a part. But the major pivot of the transformation is she will say that she probably had a poor self-image and self-love for herself. And that's why she created the reality that she now has, the extra weight. And so that all starts with developing from the mind itself, whether the belief is there that you're going to be able to change your life, that all the actions and responsibilities that you took, all the decisions that you made in the past are actually the ones that you decided to take. And another example, someone who finally makes their business a success, that you ask them what was the point that they were able to change their business into a success. They will probably say they had to change their mindset around who they are and how they chose to run their business. And they had to make this new decision coming from an internal shift, and that it finally came to them, and it really hit home, and it really made changes to their subconscious mind, so they're able to really change from the deepest part of yourself inside. And so the newest way, and if you believe that everyone around you is not good enough, then that is actually some form of self-sabotage. So shifting away from this is to take absolute responsibility over everything in your life, especially your love life. This absolute responsibility of who you're being and the expectations you're creating. and taking back control of your love life, and stop putting it onto men, onto the external, that they're not good enough, because they're actually the ones that will be, they'll be the ones that you're attracting, because that's where you're focusing, and they're the ones that who are not going to be right for you. But that's actually a different topic. So where you put your focus is what you're going to attract. So once you take this absolute responsibility and turn this inwards, so that you stop becoming a victim of your own life, that you say, hey, that happened to me. I made those decisions at that point in my life because they're the tools that I had. That was the situation. I made the best decisions I could. And just forgive yourself if you are beating yourself up for any decisions that didn't turn out the way you wanted. And just take that responsibility that, of all the decisions that you made in the past, and all the choices that you made, and for everything in your life and everyone in it. Men will actually be attracted to that feminine energy and want to be around you to support and make you happy. And it was really interesting because one friend that I was having this conversation with, and she's done a lot of therapy. She's quite an amazing person. She's very mature for her age. And I was talking about this concept of absolute responsibility. And she said, yeah, but isn't that normal? And because I guess she's done a lot of therapy, and she's really understood this concept of absolute responsibility. But to me at the time, it was like, oh, wow, that's a really radical concept. And it really is the polar opposite end of being the victim, right? The one who's saying, oh, that happened to me. Oh, I had less choice. Oh, I was living in that place that didn't have the right kind of men. Or I wasn't attractive back then, or I wasn't wealthy back then, and I wasn't in a good place in my life back then. I couldn't find the right person, the right man. So switching that into taking absolute responsibility would look like, well, that's the best choices that I had at that time in my life. That's what I needed to go through at the time. That was a perfect situation for me at the time. And now things have changed. I've changed. Life has changed and moved on. And I choose now to make different decisions. But I absolutely own everything, all my choices and responsibilities that I made in the past. And I own that, and I take responsibility for myself. And just that shift in mindset and thinking will have you shift into like a completely different energy, and being completely responsible for yourself and your actions. People around you will be magnetized to this kind of energy. It will feel like also, I guess, give people around you responsibility for give them inspiration to take responsibility for their own lives and their own actions, and that you needn't be rescuing or trying to save people around you, or trying to overhelp them, which is deterring and degrading as well for people, because it implies that they're not able to help themselves. So you never want to be in the situation where you're forcing your help or your advice or your energy onto somebody else unless they choose or invite it. So being absolutely responsible for everything in your life looks like that. And one of my mentors used to say, or still says, you want to be the one that others manifest, because you are so focused on being the best version of yourself. That is super attractive to be around, and men will be magnetized to that. So the huge benefit of having this kind of absolute responsibility mindset and ownership in life is that you immediately take back your power. You avoid wasting your time dwelling on things you can't change. You save your energy. You probably sleep a lot better, actually. Not waking up in the middle of the night regretting things and worrying about things that you can't change, those things in the past, things that you have done or has happened, that there's no point to waste all that energy. And as I like to say sometimes, why give yourself wrinkles prematurely? So, this will also give you a new sense of hope and certainty that love and relationships, is actually more about self-love. So having a relationship with somebody, you need to have a degree of self-love and self-management more than anything else. It's never about the other person. So you'll be in relationships, you'll attract the people around you that you'll need to discover a lesson for yourself. And that's the way relationships are designed. I teach something called the love journey, and it's a model that I created because I realized when we go into our first relationships, we look for someone who can kind of fill up become like our other half. We become kind of dependent, and that's not, and we were kind of raised like that because as kids we grew up and, we're dependent on our family. We need them for survival, love, shelter, care. And so you go into your first relationships like this. And of course, your first relationships are learning ones. You get to know more about yourself. You learn how to interact and communicate with other people and how to have your needs met, but also how to create boundaries and be responsible for yourself and somebody else. And if you go through life always looking for somebody to fill up your other parts of yourself, your limitations, your parts that, need improvement, instead of working on taking responsibility and working on them yourself, you're always going to look for dependent partnerships. And they're going to be not as strong as, say, an interdependent partnership, which is what James Covey talks about. And in my model, to have an interdependent relationship, which is two independent people coming together, you need to take that absolute responsibility with yourself, and then you'll actually attract somebody else who's also taking absolute responsibility, who's not a victim, who's let go of the traumas and baggage skeletons from the past. And you'll come together attracting each other to be able to have this amazing interdependent relationship. So the reality is that men will look to the women in their lives for emotional safety and security, and men will provide commitment and physical security for the right woman. But the cool thing is, women get to choose the men that, we keep in our lives, because we have the power to create life, and we get to co-create the relationship. We get to set the tone and the space for the relationship to thrive. That's the feminine energy and holding that space. So if you're constantly trying to look for the man who will support that commitment and physical security, that's not our job. That's what they will bring to the table naturally. So we don't need to try and control that and try to look for that guy who's going to provide that. Because once we're in our feminine energy and take that absolute responsibility of being in your feminine energy, of owning your past, of owning yourself, of taking responsibility for your actions and yourself, you'll naturally attract the man who will want to give that to you. As my partner always says, men in relationships, their main goal is just to keep their woman happy. It's quite a cool, but quite a basic, simple, beautiful thing, and they'll feel like that they're able to be vulnerable as well once women are able to feel vulnerable ourselves. If we constantly attack the men in our lives for not being good enough, not being enough, they will actually feel that and they'll leave. They'll find somebody that they can actually provide their, masculine energy of, providing that security, that emotional and physical protectiveness, I guess, to someone else that will fit that biological drive that they have. So if you are finding that you're constantly trying to look for that guy who fits that bill, who fits that level of commitment, who fits the profile, so to speak, take a look at that, perhaps that your beliefs in which area that you're trying to find somebody are keeping you single. And think about the absolute responsibility, because this will actually give you a huge breakthrough and start to attract the right kind of men. So try this out. Hopefully it's given you some new food for thought and some new actions and direction that you could take with your love and relationships, especially if you've been single for quite a long time. These beliefs could be quite deeply embedded, but it needn't take the same amount of time to unembed these beliefs. It's a huge belief that I have that time is collapsible, that you can absolutely hack, and like a black hole, you can get through to the other side very quickly. And that's a beautiful thing about personal growth and self-development. It needn't take a long time to make changes and transformations in your life. And if your belief that it must take a lot of time, then maybe that's another belief that's limiting you and keeping you single. So take a look at that and enjoy your day.